All right. Hi, this is Kylie Swenson. I am the editor of Remix Magazine, and we are here with KODE9, who came all the way out from the UK. And he was just on a panel with Just Blaze and Eric Cooper. Damn it! Why can't I? Cooper. Eric Cooper and Rob Swift and a whole bunch of guys. I'm forgetting Buckshot. Anyway, so we had a pretty interesting panel, and one of the things that you mentioned was that when live musicians replace a sample, it often sounds really dry, and I thought that was interesting. I wanted to see if you could, expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe before I do that, I should just qualify it by saying that probably what I'm about to say is tainted by the fact that I hate musicians.
You hate me?
No, as someone that never learned how to play an instrument, and I've always, it's a kind of hard process of working stuff out in such a slow, painstaking way. So that's all I mean. I've got,
okay.
I have a skepticism about what it takes to get stuff done the hard way. So that comment was, I hear it in a lot of, let's say, hip-hop tracks where, you hear the original and it's got some grainy, crackly sampling it from some soul track from the 50s or 60s, where you can hear not just the voice or the instruments that are being played, but you can hear the room that it's recorded in. You can hear the material that it was recorded on, vinyl that it was sampled from, the hiss of the tape or whatever.
Yeah.
And that, that adds something to it that, getting some really talented, skilled session musician to play the same notes again on the same instrument, you just, without sounding precious, you can never replace that. Obviously, with plugins these days, you can attempt to replace that. But I think the point was really just about, it's not just about replacing the instruments, it's about replacing, the room, the distance between the microphone and the instruments, that the effect of that space, and the effect of the recording medium that it was recorded, like, especially sampling, when you're sampling off vinyl. You can, there's definitely plugins now that attempt to replace that, So I think that's a crucial thing when it comes to trying to replace samples. Personally, I don't have to do it because none of the music I make sells enough to be in the legal targets.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But so many times I've been disappointed where someone's released a single. I bought the single that sounds cool, and then they release the album because the album's going to be higher profile. Then they've replaced.
And then they had to replace it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you go to for sampling fodder? If you're looking, I mean, you say it's like not high profile enough to be a target. What if do you go to high profile places? A lot of people go to like James Brown albums for samples.
Timberlake.
Yeah, where do you go for your samples?
Anywhere that is, I sample from anywhere that has grabbed me enough to stick in my memory long after I've stopped listening to it, and so when it dawns on you that you're still remembering something, then obviously it's had some kind of power over you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of subconscious in a way. It just stuff that gets inside you and stays with you, and you're like, oh. Well, why is that there? And then you go and hunt.
So then you'll go and say, okay, yeah.
And that can be in like pop stuff, or it can be in grainy old records. It doesn't matter. And
so you only work with samples. You don't work with live musicians?
I only work with samples and stuff that I bang out in the studio. That tiny little melodies that took me 4 days to to work out, and things like that. So I don't work with musicians. I just work with myself, who could hardly be called a musician, and samples and vocalists. Yeah.
I wonder. It's interesting to me because I don't sample myself, but I wonder if when you are working purely with samples, it's like a puzzle, you know, and how do you get, you know, certain samples to work and fit perfectly with others, you know?
I mean, again, not coming from a kind of musically trained background, I really value a lot things like dissonance, where a sample from one source and a sample from another source, you put them together, and, you know, someone that's coming to it with a purely tonal ear to do with, you know, whether something harmonically should work or not, I would say, no, that's wrong. And I get a lot from those kind of things that aren't musically correct.
Ah, okay.
I get, you know, things are off tune, warped, or just jar a little bit with each other. So
does it bring like a darker vibe to it?
Yeah, it gives it this makes it slightly atonal and slightly disturbing. Yeah. Maybe, and
which is kind of a part of like dubstep.
Yeah, it's kind of edgy music. It's urban, edgy music. It's quite dark. A lot of it is quite dark, and it's quite DIY. So for me, it's important. That anything goes mentality is important, which is why I'm whinging about musicians. Because the minute you're a musician, not everything necessarily can grow. Obviously, I'm generalizing.
Wait, say it again?
The minute you're a musician, I'm using musician in a very narrow sense here. Sure. Obviously, there's loads of musicians that do interesting shit. But the minute you're policed by a set of rules to do with frequencies and harmony and melody and tone and so on, it does limit what you can do.
I kind of agree with you, actually, in one respect, and that is, like, you know, in some regard, you know, I'm certainly no virtuoso guitar player. It's like one of my instruments that I use to write with, but, you know, the keyboardist in my band is, you know, I would say more on the virtuoso end. Like, he really knows everything about theory, and, you know, he can just play circles around, you know, the rest of us, but, well, not the rest of us, around me, because I don't want to insult the other band members, but, you know, sometimes, like, we would ask, you know, hey, like, we have to kind of pull in the reins a little bit, because he would just, like, play a little too much, or just a little too, you know, be too, like, the constraints of that knowledge.
Like that if I had musical knowledge, that's why I'm so skeptical of it.
It's just good. It's good, I think, to have the push and pull of, like, a little innocence, you know, to playing, you know, because sometimes it took a while for me to be like, hey, you know, I have this idea, and he would look at me like, well, you know, I am the real musician here, you know, and I'd be like, yeah, but I have an ear, and that counts for something, you know?
Having an ear is very crucial, obviously, and you don't need to be trained to have an ear. And often it's just about taking positively what your ear tells you is good, as opposed to it not being correct one way or another.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
I will see you at
You come to Love?
Yeah, I will be there, so I will see you there.